There comes a point in life when pain stops being loud. It stops screaming, stops demanding attention, stops breaking you the way it used to. Instead, it settles quietly, deeply, into places inside you that no one else can see. Most adults walk through the world carrying a hurt they never talk about, the kind that hides behind polite smiles and everyday routines, the kind that sits with them in the early mornings, in the late nights, in the moments when life finally slows down enough for them to feel it again. It's not dramatic. It's not obvious. It's not something they can explain in a simple sentence. It's the heartbreak they never healed from, the pressure they learned to carry alone, the exhaustion of trying to be strong for everyone else. And because they're adults, they believe they're supposed to endure it, supposed to pretend everything is fine. But deep inside, behind the silence and the responsibilities, there is a hurt they've never been able to put into words. Most adults don't break because of one big tragedy. They break slowly, under the weight of 1,000 small things they never had the space to feel. As the years pass, they collect responsibilities the way others collect memories. Bills, deadlines, family expectations, unfinished dreams, old regrets that never found closure. They carry the pressure to hold everything together, to stay strong even when they feel fragile, to keep moving even when every part of them wants to stop and finally rest. And the strange thing is, they've grown so used to the weight that they rarely notice how heavy it has become. They tell themselves, "It's fine, this is just life." They swallow their exhaustion, push through their loneliness, take care of everyone else, and convince themselves they don't need help. But inside, there's a quiet ache that never leaves, a heaviness behind the eyes, a tightness in the chest, a fatigue that sleep can't cure. So they carry it all silently, because that's what adults are supposed to do. Most adult pain doesn't start in adulthood. It begins years earlier, in quiet rooms and forgotten moments we barely remember, yet somehow never escape. It begins in the expectations placed on us as children, the pressure to behave, to excel, to be responsible, long before we understood what responsibility even meant. It begins in the moments when we were scared, but no one noticed, when we needed comfort, but no one had the time, when we cried quietly, because crying loudly only made things worse. We learned to take care of others before we learned to take care of ourselves. We learned to swallow emotions we didn't have the words for. We learned that needing too much makes you a burden. And so we carried that lesson year after year until it became the script of our adult life. This is why so many adults feel tired without knowing why, lonely even when surrounded by people, overwhelmed by small things that shouldn't feel so heavy. By the time we reach adulthood, most of us have mastered a skill we never intended to learn, the ability to look perfectly fine while quietly falling apart inside. We wear a mask so well that even the people closest to us can't tell the difference. A mask made of practiced smiles, polite conversations, and automatic responses like, "I'm okay," even on the days when we're anything but. Adults don't just mask their emotions, they mask their needs. They perform strength even when they feel fragile, because somewhere along the way, they were taught that vulnerability is unacceptable, weakness is embarrassing, and honesty is inconvenient. So they keep their voice steady, keep their smile intact, keep their world functioning, while the truth sits quietly just behind their eyes. This is the performance adults perfect, not to deceive others, but to protect themselves from the fear of being too much, too emotional, or too real. When you spend years pretending you're fine, your life doesn't fall apart all at once. It unravels slowly, in the small ways no one notices but you. You start feeling tired even after you sleep. Not the kind of tired your body feels, but the kind that settles in your mind and doesn't leave. Simple conversations drain you. Small tasks feel heavier than they should. You stop looking forward to things you once loved. You isolate without meaning to. You apologize too quickly, overthink too easily, and feel overwhelmed by things that shouldn't feel overwhelming. And the saddest part, most adults don't realize these are symptoms of emotional exhaustion, not personality flaws. They think they're weak, but they're actually exhausted. They think they're distant, but they're carrying too much. They think they're failing, but they're just human, forced to survive alone for far too long. It shapes your life in ways you never intended, all because you learned to carry pain instead of express it. Healing doesn't begin with some dramatic revelation. It begins quietly, almost invisibly, in the small moments when you finally get tired of lying to yourself. It starts when you feel that tiny whisper inside saying, "I can't keep living like this." Not because you're weak, but because carrying everything alone has become too heavy. You begin to notice the parts of you you've ignored for years, the exhaustion you kept pushing through, the sadness you kept swallowing, the needs you convinced yourself didn't matter. Healing is not about becoming stronger. It's about allowing yourself to become honest for the first time. You stop pretending you're okay when you're not. You say no, even when you're scared of disappointing people. Healing feels uncomfortable at first. It feels like learning a new language. But with every honest moment, you reclaim a little more of who you actually are. Not the version that kept everyone else happy, but the version that finally learns how to breathe again. Every adult you meet is carrying a story you know nothing about. A private history of heartbreaks, quiet sacrifices, and moments that changed them in ways they still don't have words for. And maybe that's the real truth, that the strongest people aren't the ones who feel nothing, but the ones who keep going despite everything they feel. Because healing doesn't erase the past. It doesn't magically undo the years of pretending, enduring, or holding everything together. But it does offer something softer, a chance to finally be human again. You're allowed to need rest. You're allowed to need support. You're allowed to be more than the mask you spent years wearing. And slowly, you begin to understand the hidden hurt you never talked about was never a sign of weakness. It was simply a sign that you've been trying to survive in a world that rarely asks, "How are you really doing?" But now, you're finally learning to ask yourself that question. And that is where healing truly begins.